Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's February 12th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And really, we spent most of the day trading up in this channel here, but this is a range day. You can see the highs up here and the lows down here, and we just kind of got stuck along this line. We kind of bounced above it a little bit in the afternoon, following this channel on up. I didn't mark much this afternoon. There just wasn't much going on. So um, you really don't want to be entering right in here on this support resistance line. Same thing. When we bounced up, you just really didn't get a good chance to enter either. So, but I wanted to back way out where you could see here's the upper side of the range, this blue line. Here's the lower side. That's your overnight low. We traded down to that, tested it, and we really bounced up the rest of the day. So let me back out a little more where we can see it a little closer. And we'll talk about the trades. Um, when I came in, prices were really in this range here. Um, Notice this low here, and then there's the first entry or second. There's really a double test here with a failed second entry short, and this went lower and turned and went out the other side. So when it broke higher there, as long as you have enough room to get out before that high, I like that entry, and you do. You have an extra tick or two. We actually won a couple extra ticks before that, before it reversed. So that was really your first opportunity right there at the 7 o'clock hour, and then the bottom just falls out of it. I actually like entering here just because it's another double test of this level, and it really makes a double top right there. You can see that, and it's a double test of that level, and it gives you plenty of room to get out. You're just looking for a scalp, but this thing, I mean, the way this bounces or drops right through with no support at all, you just ride this out. And then we get another pull back here to the trend line with a big bearish bar. It's a lower high. It's not really a failed second entry long because there's no other break higher here, and it's right into the low, although it is right off the key entry point. You can see that trend line, and if you move it over, you can see it fits really well in there until we get a little overshoot down here. But it is right off that key entry point, so you may consider it. It's just not a great entry, especially when you got this little matching double bottom there. I'm not crazy about it, but it is off the key entry point, and there are reasons to assume that we may be going lower. And even if you try to figure out where this is headed, you can see it's real close there if we're going to get a measured move. So that's another reason you're probably getting a little bounce there. So I'm not crazy about it, but if you want to be aggressive, it does fit some of our criteria. And you get a failed second entry long here, but that's a real bullish bar. It's right into the overnight lows over here. Actually, that wasn't the overnight lows, but at that point, I had this line. I had it right along there. So I had it along those closes. I believe that's where I had it right. For some reason, I can't get it to stick there, which leaves you some room. But that bar is too bearish. That word didn't want to come out for some reason. It is off the key entry points, a long way away from the EMA. A lot of reasons to skip that trade. I'm not even going to mark it. I'd be more apt to go long here, marking that one as green, because look how far away we are from the EMA. You got an overshoot. Look how bullish that bar is. Again, you're better off to wait on the higher low, which comes here. Notice how that low is higher. And but it's right into the EMA, and there's a chance you could get stuck there. So you finally get your reversal right here. So I like, even though that's a neutral bar, it's a failed second entry short, it's a reversal pattern. I like going long right there. And actually, I wasn't sure if this was a two-tiered channel. I believe this is a spiking channel. I drew the other line off the low just to see what would happen. And it did crawl up it, but we got to close outside to move to a new high. So either way, you get your close outside basically in the same spot and a move to a new high. So it didn't matter how you looked at it. But this probably would have helped you take this long here. If you're looking at this as another trend line, because now you got a failed second entry short and you're still creeping up that trend line. Notice how you're making higher lows each time and higher highs as well. So I like that one. And you might even consider entering right here. Um, you could look at this like pullback first entry, pullback second entry. Made a new high there, but it's still close enough. So you might mark uh, that break above that one, that bar right there. Um, and that is a second entry when it breaks higher. It's not a very good one, but notice that pullback first entry, pullback second entry. So there's some reasons to consider that one. And this could be a key entry point, but you're better off to wait on this one right here. You get a nice entry and you can ride that up. And that's probably where I'd have exited, right there at that high. And then notice what happens. You make a high, you close lower, you try to make another high, and it makes a little double top there. So that's a double test of that level. A little bit away from the EMA. It's not a great signal bar, so but it's worth considering. So it's real close to being red, but I left it green, and off it goes. You get a little breakout, or you get a little pullback here, and it's off the key entry point. But again, it's right there at those lows, but it does look very similar to this. It's almost a repeat pattern. So if you saw that, you may consider it. I'll make it green for that reason if you saw those, but otherwise I wouldn't take it. You get a failed second entry long there, but it's right in the lows, and you don't know where this lower trend line really is. So at that point I was thinking maybe it was here, and it could be there, and we got a big overshoot, but in the end I just think I believe that it's right along here. So really you just don't know exactly where your trend line is. So you got to be real careful with this one. So I don't like entering there. You do get a close outside, and it could go one tick lower and turn up. We end up just kind of going sideways. There's a second entry long here, but you're just so much sideways there. A lot of overlap. You could probably treat this one like a failed breakout, but that bar is very, very large. Of course, most all of them are today, but that's like a 17 tick bar right there, right into the EMA. So you're better off to wait and see if you get a lower high, and you do. Again, it's a huge bar, but at least you push through the EMA, pull back and close below it, and that's the better setup. You get your failed second entry long right here, another bearish bar. So another good setup. And then of course that's a double top, so you're moving down first entry, second entry with another double top, a bearish bar. I like that one. We still haven't got back down to this level, and it could be that the trend line's even a little lower, maybe down here. I still like it best right there. So this one moves on down, and then down here, even if you move it on down to the lows, you're still getting an overshoot right here, and so I don't like these entries. And then notice what happens. You finally make a low, make a first entry short, second entry short, it fails. I like going long right there just to ride it back to the other side. And this is the lows of the overnight too, so this is a failed break lower with 2 tries to go lower. That's the main reason I like that one, because you do still have a channel here, but you have an overshoot on the channel as well, most likely. And of course this one takes off, and then it sails off just as quick, and makes a little double bottom down here with a nice bullish bar. And so since you really tried to go lower a couple of times and made that double bottom with that bullish bar, I kind of like that entry. You wouldn't have had this line there at that point. This kind of came once we made these 2 lows here. So you got an overshoot, and really that kind of confirms this trend line right here. So it's another reason I like that one. And of course, you try to go lower 2 more times again, fails. So you're looking for it to go higher. It ends up finding resistance across here and gets kind of stuck in a channel for a little bit. It does come back down here and makes a new low and bounces off. That's a really big bar. and it's just a first entry, but you're probably going back up to the high, so I marked it green. It fits our criteria. Um, you might have considered this short as well. It's a failed break higher, but you generally want a lower high and you don't get one. I'm okay making that one green because there's no doubt we're going sideways at that point. Notice how the EMA is still pointing up, but it's really getting kind of flat. And we've turned down here several times. We turned up here several times. It's not ideal, but you could probably treat it as a failed breakout if you want to be aggressive. There's enough room to get out even before the EMA, really. And then, of course, it bounces off that trend line again, but you don't want to go, it's not a very bullish bar, and you don't want to go long right into that. It does come back and test it a few times, but you never really get a entry until it's back below it again. It is off that key entry point. But again, I really just don't like entering right into that support resistance line. You're better off to wait till the failed second entry short, which comes here, and then you're just going there's just so much overlap and so much sideways, a couple of doji looking bars. Again, that's just risky entering out of there. You finally get a failed second entry short, and this is really just a repeat of this. It looks exactly like it. You got two legs up and it fails. So there's a failed second entry short there. It is off what looks like to be a midline working up through here. So I like that one just to scalp out again, but it takes off, and really I just like it because it's a repeat pattern. It looks almost identical to that right there. And of course it does run up an equal distance and turns down. And I really didn't mark anything else in here. This is your high of the day. And you might have considered this short right here because it comes back first entry, pull back first entry, and then it goes again and fails. And you got a fairly bearish bar, but it's right in that EMA and there's not much room there. So I really don't even like it. And then notice how we're just closing back and forth across that line. And you really just want to stay out of that. It's just not a really good entry there. Of course, it does take off and make another leg up, but the only clue you might have there is each one of these lows is higher than the previous one. And this is flat, so when this is kind of giving you a hint it may break out, but I don't think it's worth risking that late in the day. And so I didn't mark anything else for the rest of the day. It was just too back and forth and sideways, and this would have been the next entry I liked, and it's after 2 o'clock. Notice that new low, first entry, second entry. It's the first break of this channel. So that would have been your next entry right there that I really like. And it's just into the 2 o'clock hour, so something to consider. But I just don't like any of this. It's just not very readable. It's very sporadic up and down. You can see the EMA getting really flat here and still kind of flat. So just not a whole lot that you can trade that safely. So I didn't mark anything. So that's really what I saw today. The volatility continues to be a little high. The bars continue to be large. We may look at going to a 1500 chart tomorrow maybe or something. I still haven't opened one. I'm not crazy about doing that. But at the same time, these bars are really large. Personally, I prefer to just put your stop where it goes, and if it takes a bigger stop, to shoot for a bigger target, because it hadn't been that difficult. I mean, don't do it in these ranges unless you got room to get out, of course. But when you're trending, you might consider a bigger stop and going for a bigger profit, because it's not really that hard to get if you catch one. Because you get these big moves like this one down, and then these big moves up and here. So I'd prefer to really go that route, is to put my stop where it belongs. It's always above or below the swing low, and then make my target a little bigger. So be careful doing that in these tight ranges, as I said. But when you're trending, that's really the way to go, in my opinion. So yeah, I think that's about it for today. Not much else you can say about this day. It's just a range day, but it's a big range. The ranges are pretty big. I mean, that's a 25 to 50, that's a 30-point range. So you can get a nice trend within 30 points. So, I mean, there were days when we were, if you had a 30-point trend, you had a great day. Now it's just, you can have a range day in 30 points. So it makes a big difference when it gets really volatile like this. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. We'll be back again and do it tomorrow. Hope you had a good trading day. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.